everyone. Welcome to Keune Academy Live. My name is James Helton, and I'll be the host for today's segment. I'm going to go ahead and let everybody join, give everybody a chance to get on. Internet being what it is, and the fact that it is tasked as of late. So just sit back, get comfortable, get some coffee, get a sandwich, and we'll be starting at exactly 1 o'clock sharp. Thanks. Hi, Victoria. How are you?
You've got Jazz, and you've got Gareth.
Gareth? Palmer? Hi, Jazz. Gian.
Phil from the UK.
Hi, Phil.
Audra.
Hi, Audra. A lot of folks jumping on pretty quick today.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Can everybody hear me well? Is everything clear on your end? Give me a thumbs up. Luna.
Little Jess.
Miss Bartolucci, how are you? Funny story about Jessica Bartolucci. Keune shared a Facebook story the other day of Jessica in her kitchen, and I didn't pay any attention to the fact that it was on Keune's story, and I asked her directly what she was making in her kitchen. Maybe some dessert hand pies or something like that.
Yeah. She was also watching our Facebook Live from Friday, cooking.
Awesome.
Elizabeth is here from Louisville, Kentucky.
Nice. Karen Odell. Hi, Karen.
Courtney.
Von Berg?
Yep.
Nice. Hello, Miss Von Berg.
She says, hey.
Hey. Homemade pierogies. I was wondering if that's what it was, actually. So, I love pierogies. Or just food in general, really.
Yeah, you do.
Hey now. I've actually, surprisingly enough, everybody talks about quarantine and how they're going to gain 100 pounds. I've actually lost 10 pounds.
I've lost weight too. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
Not that I or you need to lose any weight, but you know.
I could lose a pound or two. I'm afraid if you lost a pound or two, you'd float up off the floor. I'm convinced those shoes have weights in them.
They do. Hi, Kat.
Hey, Kat. Oh, wow.
Oh, they're asking some. See, here we go. This is a good question.
Everybody's talking about booze.
And bourbon.
Right?
Mm-hmm. 2 minutes.
Cool. Probably. Don't open that door. It beeps. Don't be opening it.
I know, that's why I opened it.
I had to let my producer give me some more water in case it were to get dry.
Hi, Jennifer.
She just walked in the house. She'll be right back out.
All right.
All right. One more minute and we will get, actually 30 seconds, and we will get this party started today. I'm sure everybody's got some good questions out there just waiting in the wings.
Send them our way.
Right. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good day. My name is James Helton, and welcome to Keune Academy Live. Today's segment is titled Chairside Chat. When Jessica Mills, our VP of Education, asked me last week what I was wanting to do, I pretty much was wanting to get together with you guys and kind of a little bit of time to chat about product and how we use it, and more importantly, how we will be positioning that going back into the salons. Working with Amber Shriepak often and listening to her segment last week really kind of inspired some things about my segment this week. One of the things is the 3 questions that she mentioned last week about reemergence into the salon and what that's going to look like for us behind the chair. And one of those is going to be, what do you love about your hair? And like Amber said, give them the opportunity to celebrate that. They may have had discoveries coming out of quarantine about their own hair that they, may like now that they didn't like before. Or they may just like the same things and want to get back to what they think is normal. Number 2, obviously, was what would you change about your hair? Amber spoke to this could mean, a service or a product. She spoke to the service end of it last week. This week we're going to speak to the product end of it. And then, of course, that plays into the 3rd question. What is your current budget coming out of quarantine? Product selling, sales of product, retailing, to me has always kind of gotten a bad rap because people call it selling product, which you are making sales, you're increasing your numbers, all this kind of stuff. But from my perspective, if you have to sell it, then you're not approaching it with the right mindset. I always think, and if those of you that are out there that know me, know this. I'm a huge fan of conversation, all right? I think most everything comes down to conversation. Whether it's my job as a hairdresser standing behind the chair, whether it's facilitating a program in a classroom or in a salon, managing a business, having a relationship, most everything that you do in life involves some form of conversation. So how do we get that conversation started about buying something extra when someone may be in a situation of not having worked in a while, that kind of thing. As well as, they may not have had much disposable income in the first place. So I believe one of the things that most of us are guilty of, myself included, especially up until about 5 years ago, is how you set that service up. And the reason I say it that way is when you go in and we get, your client has scheduled a haircut, right? So the haircut, you get in there, you shampoo them, you condition them, you get them in the chair, you usually put some sort of detangling, leave-in conditioner, something in there, cut the hair, and then when you go to finish, that's when you start adding product. Gareth Palmer spoke last week in his texture program about cutting with a purpose, all right? And being a part of the design department in my role as creative design ambassador for Keune North America, we work closely together, and I will piggyback off of what he said, and that is using product with a purpose. Okay? So when you approach a haircut, what are you wanting the hair to do? Are you wanting it to sit still so you can cut it precisely? Are you wanting to cut it with a razor, maybe do some slide cutting, all of that sort of thing? These are the questions that you need to ask going into after you apply your leave-in or your two-phase or whatever you're going to put in there. That being said, if you want a precision cut, something that's very, very straight line, very clean lines, that sort of thing, you'll want something that has some grip to it. Maybe a root volumizer, or maybe one of my favorites is this little instant blowout guy here. All right, let's see if I can get that out of the light. There we go, instant blowout. Instant blowout has a light hold. It is a thermal protectant, so you can talk about that, and it also does increase or decrease your dry time by about 75%. Or if you want to cut with a razor, you need something that has a little bit of slip. You can use the straight cream from Style. You can use defrizz from Blend. Any of these things that help keep the hair together and helps that razor glide or those shears glide as Gareth Palmer put it, chatter across the top of them.
When you're ready.
A question?
I have a question.
Absolutely. What's the question?
What are your top 3 Keune products to encourage curl?
Top 3 Keune products to encourage curl. All right, so for me, last week someone asked, what do I use in my hair? I obviously have curly hair of some sort, but it's fine. It needs a lot of encouragement a lot of times, much like its owner. They would be the defining cream from Care, the curl defining cream from Care, the curl booster spray from Care, and if I alternate between those two and the curl cream from Style. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, my faves too.
Perfect. Awesome. The reason I say for encouragement on the curl boost spray and the curl define cream from Care is they do contain wood fibers, which helps the hair to reinforce that curl. So think of, I'm sure you may be out there asking, what does wood fibers and curly hair have one to do with the other? If you ever seen a piece of wood get wet and then see the piece of wood dry, it will usually bow or bend and that sort of thing, and it will usually stay that way. And that is exactly what you're trying to get the hair to do when you are wanting to encourage curl. So speaking of, we're going to, I have 3 looks for you today with some techniques involved in each one. One of the things about PK or product knowledge that I grossly dislike, and that is the lighting of everything. Like this is soft set spray. Soft set is a light hold hairspray. You can layer it. You can do all of that. So what I would like to do is to put some of that product knowledge into motion. And that comes with techniques that you can use behind the chair, you can use at home, and that sort of thing. The first thing is just a continuation of a set I did last week for the guys. And this is just a little twist set on wet hair that has sat overnight. I shampooed her with Curl Control shampoo and conditioned with Curl Control conditioner. I sprayed a liberal amount of two-phase spray in her beforehand, and I cocktailed curl cream as well as precision powder. This, up until probably about 2 months ago, was something that I'd never even considered. And we were at our Advanced Academy in Buckhead doing a class, and one of my co-facilitators, Corey Wallace, actually showed me the cocktail on this and on how it affects a wet set. How I'm going to brush that out is I'm going to use a little defrizz. And by a little, I mean a little. Not much at all. And we're just going to emulsify that in your hands. And you're just going to start to rake through that.
So, questions for you, James.
2 questions.
One is, what is the difference between the curl defining cream from Care and the curl cream from Style?
Curl Define Cream from Care, in my opinion, is a little softer, and it does have the wood fibers to help encourage curl. The curl cream from Style has a heat protectant in it, so it definitely helps protect up to 446 degrees, not to be confused with 448. And to me, it is for a little bit more control of existing curl. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. And how did you cocktail the cream and the precision powder?
That is an awesome question. How did I cocktail the curl cream and the precision powder? I was actually hoping someone would ask so I could demonstrate that. So you put your trusty curl cream, and let's look here. Where's my hand at? There we go. You put about that much in your hand. Then you take your precision powder and just really don't be shy. Emulsify that in your hands, just like this. I usually put this on like lotion. And when I start to distribute it through the hair, I start back here and work my way up. And then I start on the other side of the head, same way, work up and out. When the product on the back of my hands goes away, I redistribute and do it again. And then at the last, I'll take from the top and just rake out and rake down with that product. The reason I do this is, number one, if your product is on the back of your hand as you work upwards through that hair, you are not getting just a big glob of it anywhere. A lot of times we want to start here because that's what we see in the mirror is right there. And most often than not, most of your product is left there. And then some is towards the back. When you work upwards through the hair like this, you can see that it works its way through the hair and not just sitting on top of the hair.
Mm-hmm. Does it feel gritty on your hands?
It absolutely. The question was, does it feel gritty on my hands? The answer is absolutely not. It was quite shocking to me how not gritty it did feel, considering the holding power of precision powder itself. Mm-hmm. Those are awesome questions. So we'll just go through and kind of work and place this. This is a very informal, very relaxed style. I usually like to use a little soft set spray to just kind of work through there, but really, in my opinion, movable, touchable, and despite the fact that it does have quite a bit of precision powder in it, it's very touchable. It doesn't have a very thatchy Because I know a lot of times with powders and that sort of thing, you can get the feel of thatchiness and that sort of thing, and that's not the case at all here. Now, some of that is aided with the assistance of the defrizz that we used before, but really, in all honesty, as you can see, it's still I can get my fingers through it, no problem, and it really helps reinforce some of that and texture inside the hair.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried that combination, but use volume powder instead of precision powder?
I have not, to be honest with you. The precision powder worked very well for me. The only difference that I could see would be the precision powder is a little finer in consistency than volume powder. So volume powder may give you a little grittier result, but I would be interested to see what they came up with if they did use that. I don't think it would be entirely out of bounds. I just think that it would be dependent on the hair that you were putting it on. If you were putting that on finer hair, I might not. If you were going to put that on coarser hair, it may be a very applicable solution.
Mm-hmm. Would you apply the cocktail on towel dried hair or dry hair?
I would apply the cocktail on towel dried hair. Yes, ma'am. Any more questions?
No.
Perfect. Okay. So that is a pretty easy young lady there to work through. Like I said, it's very, very touchable, very informal, very loose. One of the things to keep in mind about this particular look is, just like we discussed last week when we were talking with Jessica Bartolucci about updos and the fact that she used zigzag partings to pretty much part off everything, that's how I would do this. I would take a zigzag parting from the apex of the head to just behind the ear, separate those two sides out, leave the back, separate with a zigzag parting right at the parietal ridge, pin that up, split your back into a zigzag parting, and just work your way up that way, and then just replicate that on both sides of the head as well. Is there any more questions on this particular look?
Not right now.
Perfect. So we're going to work from not so extreme to a little more extreme to very extreme. This young lady here, I really enjoyed working on this weekend. I'll move that a little closer so you can see that texture in the hair. One of the things that I think that we're all guilty of is not using enough product. So on this hair, on her hair, I definitely put that to the test, right? And she was set pretty much like you saw Dallin Flint set last week. She was set like a glam wave, with the exception of a little bit of a non-traditional element in that I will show you briefly. One of the things that we always talk about is my hair didn't stay, right? That's one of the things we hear a lot in the salon, especially if you have an updo that you're doing for like a wedding and she's coming in at 10 o'clock in the morning and the wedding isn't until 4:30 in the afternoon. This may seem like an extreme amount of product, but it really comes through very clean. And this was set on Saturday, and it has rained here since then. So she was blown out initially with using Too Faced to prep her, using straight cream, as well as a little blowout gelée. Now, the blowout gelée is to provide some control. Also, we're going to be using quite a bit of heat on her. So this is the first step of that heat protect. Well, actually, the second step of the heat protection, with the two-phase being the first. Blowout Chalet also protects up to 446 degrees. Next up, we're going to put just a light spray of our instant blowout spray. And then we're going to put a light spray of the liquid hairspray.
What do you like about the liquid hairspray, James?
What do I like about the liquid hairspray? That's a great question. When I went to beauty school, I went to beauty school in a time where there was two essential products that everybody had to have. One was mousse, one was non-aerosol hairspray. So just like any other kid that was, raised in that time, that's what I chose to rebel against. Aerosol hairspray from then on out, or I was not going to use hair at all until liquid hairspray came along. Liquid hairspray, the thing I like about liquid hairspray is this. It provides a tremendous amount of hold that is very combable. So when I'm doing things like iron sets or anything of that nature, you can spray it in, and as soon as it dries, it's like it's not even there until you go to use your iron or whatever. On curly hair, it's awesome. I use it on my lovely locks here, and it really is very flexible, but it does have a lot of hold. It's almost a dichotomy of itself, personally. And did that answer the question?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Do you like to apply the blowout gelée first and then layer coil cream?
I actually like to apply the straight cream first and then put the blowout gelée on over the top of that. It's just a personal preference. The next product up is going to be a little dry texturizer right at that root. Texture iron. Some people call it a crimping iron. I like to call it a texture iron because when I was in the 7th and 8th grade, I thought crimping irons was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. I thought as a 7-year-old, 7th grader, seeing girls run around school with that, I was like, who in their right mind would ever do that to their hair? And as the old saying goes, and here we are. So you can see how the use of that texture iron really causes that hair to come up off the head and sit there, right? We're going to do, I'm going to position her just a little bit away from you guys. There we go. This parting was taken slightly on a diagonal back, and I'm just going to use this wand and do a little twist curl, which pretty much is the wrist watch curl that Dallin used last week. So wrist, watch, and be careful not to burn yourself because you're going to just kind of hold that there. The beauty of this product is this. By using product in the way that we did, you can see with just a very small amount of time, that hair is curled and ready to be secured away.
Can you demonstrate that again, but tilt her head back a little bit as you're doing the wrist watch?
Back like that. Okay, one more time. We're going to do instant blowout. Couple of little sprays. I would prefer when you do this, it's a lot easier to work with it if you kind of hold it back so that the spray just mists onto it. I think Mr. Flint last week had an awesome saying, we're not killing a roach here. We're going to come in with that dry texturizer right at the root. Comb that through so that you get that nice even distribution. Right here at this hairline, I want to hold this hair up to where it is 90 degrees off the head, which in this case would be about 45 degrees in elevation above horizontal. Because we're working right here on her hairline, and I don't necessarily want to see a huge crimp, I'm just going to come in and lightly bounce that iron on the hair so that we can still get some of that texture that lifts her up off the head, but does not create a lot of noticeable crimping in there, as you can see there. So now with the wristwatch, I'm going to lay this iron on top of the head, on top of the section. I'm going to, what I refer to as seasoning the hair, getting the hair a little bit hot. Now, wrap up and around, wrist, watch, wrist, watch, wrist, watch, and hold. Being careful to not, make sure that you wrap that end over the top of the existing hair, or you will get quite a surprise. And as you can see, that curl almost holds itself. And we will do this one up here. Was everybody able to see that?
Yeah, very good. Is the iron tapered or a 1 inch?
The question was, is the iron tapered or is it a 1 inch? This is a 1 inch Marcel that I removed the clamp from. As you can see right there, those two screws are what holds the clamp on. And the reason I put those back in there is so that I don't lose them. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Perfect. So as we work to the top of her head here, just a little bit of instant blowout. Work that through. A little spritz of the liquid hairspray. And just a touch of that dry texturizer. Notice even on dark hair, that dry texturizer leaves no powdery finish. All right? So that you're free to use that on dark hair, light hair, white hair, not white hair, whatever you choose to do. Coming in, again, your elevation is going to be above horizontal. When you're working with a texture iron, always make sure that the iron itself is sitting parallel to the section that you're working on. So if you are working on a diagonal back section, make sure that iron is sitting at a diagonal back and that it is sitting perpendicular to the head, meaning not turned, not twisted. I have something here in a moment to show you how we can manipulate twisting the flat iron, but just to give it a little oomph at the root, you don't really need to do that. So grabbing this section here one more time, season that root up there a little bit, and twist, wrist, watch, wrist, watch, and hold that on there just like that. If you happen to have a favorite Keune product, please be sure to leave that in the comments and why, so we can refer back to that later. And if you have anything that you would like to see in the future, also put that in the comments so that we can refer back to that in the future. This class today actually is because I had several people reach out to me after my last class and request more product tips. So we definitely listen to you guys out there. We want to know what you guys want to know so that we can help you while you have the time to commit to almost daily education well, not almost, actual daily education if you choose to do so.
James, can you tilt the top of the head a little towards the camera?
Like that.
I need a little delay for me. Yes, thank you.
Of course. Again, going in with that texture iron. Remember when you're ironing the hair, I saw the funniest thing this weekend that I will forever use in class, no matter what I do. And it came from my good friend Alicia Dixon out of Chicago. And that is, remember, we're roasting chicken, not frying chicken. Meaning, always watch the temperature on your iron and not just jam it down on there and just fry the dickens out of it. So again, wrist, watch, wrist, watch, wrist, and carry that around. Let that sit for just a moment. And as you can see, when you take that out, that curl is not going anywhere. Much the same way that we did the twist set. I wanted to keep this separated out so you guys could see. I did a zigzag parting from the apex of the head down to just behind, actually about a ½ inch behind the ear here is where it lands. I did the same thing on the opposite side. That way you don't have set lines that you have to really work to get out of the hair and that sort of thing. So we're going to let this little lady cool because, it's a little cold here today. So in my studio, it's a nice crisp, probably 50-something degrees. So this will cool relatively quickly. While she cools, I'm going to bring out her other friend here. This young lady was inspired by a look I did at National Training Convention last year, which is the actual promo photo for this class. And this is all done with a texture iron. As you can see here, if I turn her around, the back has been brushed out, and I will work with that in just a moment. But these sides I left intact so that you can see that these are actual crimped from scalp to ends. Now, I did use instant blowout. I did use instant blowout yet again. And I did use liquid hairspray. I also added to the mix, I just used the blowout gelée when I blew her out. And to give you an idea what kind of control that gives you, this fringe area here has not been ironed. It has not been done anything but dried with a vent brush like that. And just some gloss spray over the top of that with our brilliant gloss spray to give it some shine and to calm it down. So we're going to spray with the instant blowout. We're going to go over this with liquid hairspray. And one of my all-time favorites, humidity shield. You want this to show visible texture. like this here in the back. But one of the things you don't want this to do is frizz. And the instant blowout definitely helps with frizz. I find personally instant blowout to be doubly effective when it's dried in the hair. You definitely can use it as a finishing product. When you're done, before you go out the door, after your hairspray, give yourself a nice dusting with the humidity shield. But I really love it when I can use it during the actual blow dry itself. When you do this particular technique on someone's hair, again, making sure that that crimper, that texture iron, stays level with your elevation on the hair. Like if your hair is elevated at 45 degrees above horizontal, you need to make sure that that is carried out throughout the entire length of that section. Because if you don't, what can happen is you'll get bends and that sort of thing. And if you want bends in it, that's great. However, make sure that you're doing that on purpose, not ending up with it on accident, or even worse yet, ending up with it on accident when you didn't really want it in the first place. So we're going to let that fall and cool. That is what that should look like right there. Not super, super deep crimps, but definitely enough to notice. In my top 2 sections, I discovered something kind of fun this weekend. While doing this, kind of like most discoveries, on accident, we're going to do a little bit of a rick-rack with the texture iron. So again, with the instant blowout, again with the liquid hairspray, humidity shield. So come in, I'm going to drop her down just a little bit. She's getting a little tall for me.
Mm-hmm. You might want to tilt her a little forward too.
Tilt her.
Chin down.
Chin down. Like that.
I'll tell you when you catch up. Perfect.
Okay, awesome. So start at the root here, all right? But instead of just letting it sit like we normally would, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the hair a little towards me and bend the iron a little away from me. Let that sit, move down, and work it the opposite direction. Let that sit for a moment, move down, repeat the motion from before, holding the hair down, bending the iron upwards, bending the iron towards you, pulling the hair towards you, bending the iron away from you, pulling the hair straight to the floor, again towards you, and finish that out, away. So what that does, as you can see from the side there, it gives a very wavy, I like to call it rick-racky look. And that's just, another way to implement texture into the hair with your product. So I'm sure that a lot of you out there are like, okay, that's a lot of product. And you started this off talking about people coming back, not having a lot of money, maybe, or having that conversation with people that the possibility is that they don't. One of the things that I really attempt to put into practice, I really do put into practice in my own salon, and it makes the world of difference. Roy Peters once taught me that when you're retailing with someone or to someone, if you take 3 products to the counter and set it on the counter, they'll buy one of them. So I've kind of, since I work in a suite, I don't necessarily have a retail counter, so to speak. So at the end of the service, when they ask like, okay, how do I do this at home? Or any of those kind of questions that open up the conversation, you have a vital product, okay? In this particular situation, I would say the first 2 vital products are your shampoo and conditioner. Everybody has to wash their hair. So that particular day, get them started on the right foot and send them out with some shampoo and conditioner. When they come back, you have introduced that end of service conversation or the finishing of that conversation. So at that point, you recommend the next vital product. And before you know it, and I can testify to this literally, before you know it, every time they come in, they're buying a product. I know that sometimes people are intimidated by, they've just spent $250 or $300 on a service, and now I'm asking them to spend another $150 to $200 on product when maybe that service cost was almost as much as they could afford, period. So that's a great way to start getting them, again, accustomed to having that conversation. If someone introduces the conversation to you with, that smells good, why are you putting that in my hair now? Any of that kind of thing, that's your segue into, well, this is that, and this is why. If you tell the people why you're doing it, it is way more important than the what. I remember a quote by a really good author at one point: people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So that being said, straight cream is straight cream. It has a function, it has a purpose. If you tell them what that purpose is and why they need it, then you have, that's it. And most of you are having that conversation anyway, you just don't know it. Meaning that if you talk about a handbag, if you talk about a pair of high heel shoes, if you talk about the t-shirt you're wearing, the movie you saw last night, the restaurant you ordered food from yesterday, or any of those things, that is selling that product. Because you're telling them why you liked it, what was good about it, all of that. When in all actuality, I doubt very seriously, there may be somebody out there, but most of you do not have a contract with Louis V, or with Tom Ford for that matter, and they are not sending you royalty checks in the mail. So it's not that you're not having the conversation. Have the conversation about something that's actually going to pay you back. On purpose. Exactly. Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
So let's take a little peek at her. So you can see those waves coming down like that. So what I have to do to begin with when brushing this out, I'll start with the not hot side, is literally with your vent brush, start working your way through that. Because it is textured, it may give you a little pushback or a little pull, but it's nothing, it's not sticky, it's not anything. So you can really pick that hair up, and if you want to look at her from the front, work on placing that hair a little bit. Work that into the fringe if you would like, so you can have a little bit of contrast with that nice texture, with that nice firm line underneath it. If you happen to have gotten a little much product in there, one of the great things about Brilliant Gloss Spray is that you can spray that on the hair in a liberal sense and really you can see now that it has little to no drag. Again, one of my favorite products, if I can find what I did with it, there it is the precision powder in this case, which is exactly how I did my model on stage for this. And that is just really come over the top, give her a nice healthy dose, stand behind her here, and really just work that in there. Much like the model I worked on that evening, she had a nice little Parisian style bob. I give this young lady a little bit more fringe than I did that lady, but as you can see, the amount of texture you can build in with this and with these products is pretty remarkable in my opinion. A little soft set spray, because you've already put plenty of product in there, you just want to give it a little encouragement on staying put. What does everybody think about that?
Actually, your graphic for your class today is your model.
Yes, absolutely. The graphic for the class today was my model from that particular event. So I really enjoyed doing this. When we did this, it was inspired by our tousled texture from our blowout, our style sessions. I went blank for a moment. I was like, our style sessions, and we kind of took that and amped it up a lot and really gave her some for real tousled texture. And it was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun to work on as well. And with that little rickrack in there, it really, if I'd have known then what I know now, that would have definitely came out on stage as well. So that being said, is everybody good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Now, let's take this young lady down. I like to start at the bottom. Notice all my clips I put in facing the same way so that when I started taking them out, I didn't run into any snags.
So you just let her curl, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Most of the time, it takes about 20 minutes for a curl to set. Since it's a little cold in my studio today, that kind of helped. And that we didn't have a lot of curls to set. These have set overnight, the underneath ones. Mm-hmm. And then just the 4 that we did today. That's what I'm taking out. Make sure I don't have anything back there. And really, at the end of the day, I just take my wide tooth comb and start working through these curls. One of the things that I would recommend is, since you did set this in sections with the iron, make sure to really go in at the root area and comb that out a little bit so that you can avoid any type of lines or anything like that in your look. So as you can see here, lots of really visible texture. No matter how you pull on it, it's not weakening the texture at all. If you really want to blow it up and make it big and huge, one of the things to do is to start at the bottom and just start working that curl inward just by taking and grabbing the hair and slowly rouging that up a little bit.
So James, if you have somebody, a client who's prone to frizz, is there something you might put in the hair, or do you feel like you have enough product in there to help control that frizz completely for somebody? I'm asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. Jessica's friend wants to know that if you have someone that has that is prone to have to battle frizz, would I put something additional in the hair to help control that? My honest to God favorite go-to for that, believe it or not, is the fiber wax from Blend. It is a product that has style memory. It has a very similar consistency to defrizz, but it's very almost elasticy in how it makes the hair feel. And just come in and just scrunch it in the hair, or crunch it in the hair, as somebody said the other day. And you can really work the ends of the hair with that as well, so that you're not frizzing the hair doesn't appear to get overworked. But as you can see, if I can get her close enough, as you can see, by using that, those curls really do pop, and the frizz on that really gets tamed down.
Nice tip.
Thank you. It's, it's one of those, we know what we do every day. All right? It's like that quote somewhere, somebody said that excellence is a habit. The same way with this. If you don't use it, your client won't use it either. So set all weekend, set today. So as you can see, not a huge amount of difference in the curl, and definitely I did finish her off this weekend on this side with a little bit of humidity shield, so that the humidity here in the great state of Oklahoma would not cause my set to fall. So any questions that you guys might have over the content that we put out today? I hope that these tips were helpful to you guys, in not only some techniques that you may try behind the chair when that time comes, practice on a mannequin head at your house until it does come around, and also some product tips on how to initiate that conversation. I told you that we would talk a little bit about the difference between layering and cocktailing. Obviously, most of my work is done in layering. Cocktailing is, we did the one with the curl cream and the precision powder, but I tend to cocktail more things like this than I do with products that, like straight creams and that sort of thing. Most of the time I do layer those in the hair. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. I hope that you all are well. I hope that you all had a wonderful Easter. I definitely had too much food today with just us here at the house by ourselves. So thank you again for joining us. Please tune in tomorrow for my good friend George Already, and please tune in days following for my friend Amber Shreepak and my good friend Dallin Flint as well.
And Chris Combs.
And I've been waiting all week to say this. My man Chris Combs and his sexy 7-section blowout should be something to behold. So, thank you all. You have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll see you out there, and I'll see you next time.